I'll pay close attention. Thank you.
Action.
Be one of those things.
Actually, just like TV. Okay, this is the City of Taft Planning Commission, and we're having our regularly scheduled meeting today, Wednesday, September 8th, 2021, in the City Hall Council Chambers at 209 East Kern Street, Taft, California, 93268 at 5 p.m. Effective June 22nd, 2021, Planning Commission meetings are being held in person with full capacity seating and are also being live streamed on https://www.youtube.com/user/city of Taft. Masks are required to enter and be worn by all attendees. Public comment can be made in person and also can be received per the following. Written comments may be dropped off at the drop box in front of City Hall. Comments may be emailed to the city clerk at ymayfield@cityoftaft.org. Made by phone to the city clerk's office at 661-763-1222. Public comments are not made in person will be accepted up to 1 hour before the meeting. Any comments received will be read into the record. So this is the time we call the regular meeting to order, and we'd like you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Livingston?
Salute.
Oh, is it you, Bob? I was not.
Yeah, he was on the volunteer. I'm like, wait. Pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Invocation, Kathy?
Lord, we come to you in the name of Jesus, and we ask for wisdom and knowledge as we operate in the capacity of the Planning Commission. We also ask your blessing on our city and on our region. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Be seated, and it's now time for a roll call.
Chairman Oren,
Here.
Vice Chair Livingston,
Here.
Commissioner Dowden,
Here.
Commissioner Johnson,
Here.
Commissioner Lycan.
Here.
Okay, number one is citizens' request and public comments. Comments are to be received as stated in the above policy. This is the time and place for the general public to address the Commission on matters within its jurisdiction. State law prohibits the Commission from addressing any issue not previously included on the agenda. Commission may receive comment and set the matter for a subsequent meeting. Please limit comments to 5 minutes. Have we anything submitted? Okay, there's no one in the audience with a request, therefore we dispense with item 1. Item number 2 is the minutes of the August 4th, 2021 regular meeting. There's a recommendation to approve as submitted. Have a motion?
Motion to approve minutes from August 4th as submitted.
Second?
I'll second.
Second, and those will be a roll call vote.
Vice Chair Livingston,
Yes.
Commissioner Lycan,
Yes.
Commissioner Dowden,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Chairman Oren.
Yes. It carries on a 5-0. That brings us to item 3, public hearing, zoning ordinance amendment number 2021-03. We have a recommendation from Mr. Staples.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Oren. As you mentioned, this is zoning ordinance amendment number 2021-03. It's a proposal to amend section 6-12-22 and other related sections related to recycling facilities. We've been, it's been a couple meetings on this. We're down to the last iteration of it, and you have both a clean copy of the ordinance, how it will be sent to the city council, and then you have the strike through and underlined version. And what I wanted to just point out, so it's big and clear, is you were concerned about the after hours container section, where previously I think I kind of glossed over it, and just made sure those containers were in good repair, but it sounded like the commission was all for just no after-hour containers, just receiving the material during the operating hours. So on the after-hour containers, both for the large collection facilities, because they would be on their own property, you have an after-hours container section where it says, now the entire section's deleted with a new line item that says large collection facilities shall not accept donation of recyclable materials during non-operation hours. And we've put that as well on the larger processing facilities in their subsection, which is page 9 and 14. They have a similar after-hours container section that's now deleted with a similar statement about not collecting the recyclable materials outside of operation hours. And if you're curious what the operation hours are, in both sections, there are a couple sections above that. The processing facilities, which are the full industrial type facilities that take pretty much any kind of recyclable material, it's a 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then on the large collection facilities, which are just larger versions of the small ones that would go on a parking lot of a shopping center, they're 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. as well. So they have that 12-hour window to either operate within that or anything more confined, but they would not be collecting materials after hours. No after hours drop off as directed by the commission, and if that's sufficient, I will conclude my presentation with that and take any follow-up questions you may have regarding this ordinance amendment.
It's allowed to be a 7-day-a-week operation,
Yes.
okay? And the only question I had was the distance from residential, existing residential or residentially zoned lots.
Right.
And I think we said in here 500 in the document, but I was under the understanding we had agreed to 1,000 feet.
1,000 would be on the full processing facility.
Okay.
So where you're crunching and baling and taking more of the harder metals beyond containers. But if the large collection facility is more of just a larger, let's get up to this here, is only in industrial areas. One thing it does is that we utilized the current J&D as a point of reference, and they're about 600 feet from the closest residence. So extending it to 1,000, you'd probably have to be another, well, not probably, you have to be another 400 feet up Kern Street to locate a new facility. So if there was ever a change and somebody came back to use the J&D site, they would be too close, because they qualify as this large collection facility based on the size of their property.
Okay.
So that's where that fits in. And then even 1,000 from a site like Kmart, that might be the old Kmart property, which might be a good location for a small one. It's about 800 feet to the closest residence from there, but that's all the way over to South Taft on the other side of the highway, or the airport addition on the north side of Kern Street,
Okay.
or Airport Road. So that's where the distance is good, but one thing is, being as small as we are, once you kind of map that out, you start hitting some residential pretty quick. But there's some natural barriers, like where J&D is currently. You have kind of that dividing line of Hillard Street and the Sandy Creek.
Right.
You know, you get the industrial starts from there. And then Highway 33 for everything east from the Kmart property on eastward. Because as you keep heading east, you get further and further away from residential. There really isn't a way to get closer unless they site in South Taft, and we have no jurisdiction on that.
But Mark, J&D are still in operation, right?
Correct.
Is there a window within which if they close, they cannot reopen?
No, they would be, the way
Right.
this is drafted allows a pause in use and somebody to restart, or somebody buys them out. and
Okay,
starts it
that
up
was
again.
a question.
That's where, the way the distances are set now, someone would be able to go in without much issue. It's just if we extended the distance and they shut down, they'd have to look 400 or 500 feet more up Kern Street, like on the other side of GPS or something. Get you at that 1,000 feet if we set that
Okay.
for a property like that. It would be a problem if somebody wanted to go full processing facility at J&D's site, where they're, salvaged metals, copper.
Crushing vehicles.
Construction material, waste,
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Is there room for like, say reevaluating, like if someone decided to, hey, I want to put a facility here, but this is our decibel level, so we're set at 1,000 feet now, but if we think the levels will be lower, maybe we can work with them.
With any application, so let's say somebody wanted to go in at the J&D site with something that included some recycled metals or other materials, but maybe it wasn't as harsh industrial, they could try to file for a variance for the distance requirements. And maybe they can prove that even though they're that close, they can still meet these noise level requirements because the 500 feet probably is, or 600 feet, whatever it is, might be a sufficient distance where bailing or whatever is not an issue. Plus, you take into other factors, size of property, configuration of property. So if, crushing, noise-making activity is pushed all the way to a back end of a property, that distance helps with the noise as well. They can get a quick noise analysis from a sound engineer, if you will, to show that and how much a typical baling machine or whatever equipment they have that would produce that noise, and over a certain distance, it dissipates and the residents should not notice it as much.
Yeah.
And
Kind
that
of
would,
thing.
that would come to us, right?
That would come to you, yeah. The good thing is that anybody wanting some lenience on the standards, or actually just even citing they're even complying, would still come before you. But a change over ownership with like a J&D property, that would just change over through a business license process if the operations stay the same. Any changes, if they do it, next operator or somebody new with a new site, they would come before you with these standards.
Mark, on the page before, it listed acceptable items, glass, plastics.
Yes, this.
Are batteries no longer accepted by them, or they used to take small wheelchair-type batteries, sealed gel?
No matter what they do need permits through the state for collecting waste, so they might have some allowance for that kind of waste that I'm not aware of. When I go onto Cal Recycle's site, they're just listed as a beverage container site. They're not oil or tires, I think, are some of the other options they try to list on the state site.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so we're looking for a motion to approve the recommendation that Mark has given us for the amendment.
Yeah, a motion to adopt a resolution entitled, "A Resolution to the Planning Commission of the City of Taft recommending approval to the City Council of Zoning Ordinance Amendment Number 2021-03, an amendment of Section 6-12-22, and other related sections of Title VI of the Taft Municipal Code regarding recycling facilities."
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. No further discussion? Okay, that's a roll call vote also.
Vice Chair Livingston,
Yes.
Commissioner Lycan,
Yes.
Commissioner Dowden,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Chairman Orr.
Yes, that carries on a 5-0. All right, thank you. We're moving on now to item number 4, study session, the downtown Taft specific plan and zoning ordinance amendments to accelerate housing production project. This relates to our Zoom.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you, Chairman Orrin. This isn't necessarily a recap of what was discussed at the workshop, but as I've mentioned in prior meetings, as we move along, I think there's going to be sufficient content from activities and whatever happens where I'll do some form of a summary or where to update you on where we are in the process. But I will mention that we did have our first workshop through a Zoom call on Wednesday, August 25th. It was well attended, not as many as I hoped, but I know we're getting back to school and it was kind of the front end of maybe some Labor Day weekends. But what I'm gonna go over today is that at the end of the process, because they were trying to get as much information out of people who were in attendance, I know Vice Chair Livingston was on the call, Chairman Warren was on the call, but we did go to that aerial map of the downtown project area to go over some of the comments that those in attendance could provide for opportunities and constraints and whatnot. But that map is on what I've mentioned before, a third-party website we've set up. So in this staff report, anybody who's watching now, or if you want to share it with folks, these links all go to that site, but it's just the 3 pages we have at the moment, which is the main homepage, the workshop one recording, and then the interactive map that has the comments. And we're gonna have a few minutes of fun of adding a couple more comments to the map before we don't really close it out, but there will be kind of a cutoff point where the consultant team will move on, take the comments they've received thus far, and we're gonna be working towards our second workshop, which should be at the end of October. And I'll update you on that when we have our regular October meeting, the date, the time. That should be in person, so we'll have a little more interaction and maybe we'll have a little bit better attendance, because I know we all wanna work with each other on this project, so hopefully that still happens. So we'll go one at a time. The first link is the home page, and I'm gonna show you what that looks like. So this is the home page of the specific plan project. And like I said, right now, it's a simple 3-tab website, home, workshop 1, and the project background. But on the home page, you can actually do most of everything from here. Simple summary of the project, and then there's the announcement of workshop 1. And when you click on that, it'll take you to the workshop 1 page where there's a YouTube video of our Zoom call. I'll just advise anybody who is listening right now or watching this later, you could fast forward about 4 minutes into the video, because that was when we were waiting to get people more on the video, but there was some good back and forth discussion, but the meat of it starts about 4 minutes in. Here was the flyer when we had we had this website up and active about 3-4 days before the workshop. If anybody wanted to or to help notify people, you can connect to the map from here, and then signing up for email updates. So that's what I have on the staff report that's in the agenda. So homepage, workshop 1, the map, and then we want as many people as possible to sign up for this, for the email updates. It's just for this project, it's just a name and an email, that's it. So when we start sending out reminders of when workshop 2 starts coming up, and then any changes to this site, and then we're planning a workshop 3 and 4, which should be probably end of this year, beginning of next, to really tie things together and start going down the path of a final document next spring. So the fun part today is going to be the map. So you could click on the C project map here. Let's make sure that's visible. And it will take you to, or actually, let me back up. So this is what the workshop 1 page looks like. And here's the YouTube video. You can watch it from here or click it to open it up in the regular YouTube page, and you can view the entire video. And they did add this. I didn't notice this here. So there is an opportunities and constraints memo. It's about a 40-page document that goes over our general plan, zoning, different things that have come up through the Zoom workshop. They've interviewed 5 people thus far, from council members to Les Clark at the Rec District, Richard Chapman at the current EDC, trying to get kind of a well-rounded both inside and outside the Taft area of what makes Taft and things like that. So they're really trying to get as much information from a diverse scope of people. So you could view all this. And if you have any questions or additional comments you want to add to it, feel free to email me. And if you put your contact info in the email contacts, our project team can send out responses as well if we get enough questions about different aspects of what was discussed here or the memo. So now let's go on to the map. So this is what it looks like. It's really zoomed out. But as you can see, the downtown project area is in a little more full color. The areas outside are a little faded out. Now, if you want, you can put any of these little pins across the top on the outside of maybe there's something outside that affects downtown or vice versa. You could do that. But as you can see from our workshop, the project team that was working in the background as people were throwing out their ideas threw these different pins down. So to show you how this works, there we go. So something I like. So you just grab the pin, you hold the mouse button and drop it where you want it. I'm gonna put it right on the monument. And the oil worker monument is an important landmark for the city and town. That's it. And then you can, the only thing required is the comment field and an email. And I believe putting an email here, even if you don't sign up, is a way to sign up. So if you feel fine with putting contact first and last name and any of the information we have here, you can. Otherwise, just comment and email, and that's good. Yep. Oh, and agree. And what that does is when we drop that down, the consultant team in the background gets emails from all these comments. So they get emails with our short or long comments. And I'll show you a couple of the ones that have been put down here. One comment that was made is that with this trail, since we do have a lot of vacant area, what retail, residential options we could have here. And one comment that was made was, if there's a way, both with any commercial development or residential, to have a front porch feel with the green space of the trail. So somebody saw that as an idea, and I think, which one is it here? One thing is, when you get one hotel, there tends to be kind of a hotel row or a clustering. That comment was brought up, so could across the trail from Best Western be another hotel site? That was brought up. Now let's go to constraints, I think. We have received comments both during the CPAT a couple years ago. We're looking at downtown, and then I think it was brought up again during our meeting that there is a tendency that when there is an unavailability of parking in front of some stores, I think sometimes the employees might be parking there instead of maybe a couple spaces down to leave a space or two open. So don't take it too personally, but it's something that make sure the spaces are there for your customers. But that's a comment we've heard more than once in a couple of these projects. So I put in a good one at the monument, and I'll put a constraint, which is this yellow one with the lightning bolt in it. And I think most of you know that on the constraint side, and we already have the studies for it, this property here beyond Second and Supply Row, this property, has contaminated soils,
Who owns the property next to the Best Western, between Best Western and 10th Street?
yes.
Between Cave-ins? Who owns that?
We do. So pretty much everything vacant between Main and Front, from out here where a couple of the industrial plumbing, electrical companies are, to 10th, we own. We have sold the Dollar General and Grocery Outlet are sold to those businesses, but pretty much everything else that's vacant here. The only one that is not And let me finish this comment here. I got a 3 in there. All right, so non-compatible. So I think I've had conversations with most of you, but with the new commissioners, we may have had conversations over the years where we do have soil studies for everything because of the former industrial uses that were along the rail. And we do know that this particular strip of land, the prior industrial use did have sufficient whatever materials that got on the soils, or just the years of whatever movement of goods on and off the rail cars or whatever it may be, that it's just too high of whatever chemical levels where a commercial use could go there, especially when you pave over it and it kind of seals it in the ground. But having any kind of residential on this particular property is probably not compatible. You know, whenever you hear, unfortunately, of some residential developments that end up building on certain pieces of land that didn't have soil excavated out or somehow mixed in with clean soils, this is one where we're avoiding residential development. And we have the studies that support that, but some form of commercial should be good. We've had ideas of if the storage bin ran out of space to have more storage, this could maybe be another mini storage property because of that, to reduce the amount of exposure to humans of whatever is there. It's not toxic necessarily, but it's not good for long-term exposure on the site that would be from living on it, so.
You don't want your kids playing on that dirt.
Yeah. So there's that. So let's go.
And Mark, wasn't one of those corners gonna be like a RV recreational park?
Yes. So let's shift this so we have the whole property. All right, there we go. All right, so let's go. So Commissioner Dowden, so this empty spot where the hand is there, that's all of ours. We were trying for a while to get a restaurant there. We did have some okay conversations both with Denny's and Black Bear Diner. They were looking to expand, but I think their expansion ended up being, I believe there's a Black Bear Diner down at Tone Ranch now when that grew a couple years ago. So that's where their expansion went instead of here, but we're still marketing that for here to be right next to the hotel. But we do own everything to the business at the corner as well. They have a lease with us.
The Gavins,
Yeah.
That was basically my thought too, like a Denny's, IHOP.
So a restaurant idea?
Yeah.
All right, so let's see what this opportunity was
the
here.
parcel that's directly north of that on 10th Street, that used to be, I think Roger Miller,
Yes,
Pacific Perforating, was the owner of that. Does he still own that?
yes.
That's where the tower is, the
Yes.
cell tower. Acreage-wise, Mark, is that about the same size as the parcel where the hotel is?
The remaining vacant
Yes.
area? Yes, it appears to be that, but if it includes the rest with the business there, it's a little bit bigger.
3 acres approximately?
Actually, around 2.
Okay.
Gonna give Commissioner Dowden the credit here. All right, and then do that. And then close. And then Commissioner Lycum, you were mentioning the RV park. Do you think we could put a pin there for opportunity, or maybe just the light bulb of ideas and suggestions?
Let's go with light bulb.
All right. All right, so.
Is that the location that the former RV folks were looking at?
Yes, from, if you remember, Mr. Coates, who was helping
Right.
with the downtown, folks who have looked to rehab the, keep forgetting, sidings building, I guess we called it, or, a supply, something supply,
Howard Supply.
Howard Supply, there we go.
Okay.
Rehabbing that as maybe the office or a dining
The
space.
store,
Or store, let's see. Is there another constraint or something that needs attention or a general comment, either here, anything along Current Street? Like one I had an idea for, I'm gonna use a different pin just to make it stand out. So the block that used to have the cars parked for Taft Chevrolet,
yeah.
you know, it's still owned by the Taft Chevrolet property owner, but if you didn't know, there's like 5 other property owners, cause there's other slivers there, where the house unfortunately burned down across the street from it. Some of the properties along Current Street is another property owner, that retail store, and then you have the Miller's, insurance at the corner, so,
It's a constraint on land assembly.
So, Mark, the map is not current up to date. So the O'Reilly store that has been built is right there in what is now, in that picture, vacant land.
cell tower there, and then, it is as recent as, Dollar General being.
Right, but not the grocery
Not
outlet.
the grocery outlet, yes. Is there another, maybe just general comment, maybe high level, something you'd like to see, but maybe there isn't a particular location in mind?
Some nice condo slash townhouse downtown. I kind of envision if you're living downtown, you can walk to restaurants,
Yes, it's interesting. I was
go have a drink.
just in
catch a
Bakersfield and
movie.
talked to a developer today. He's doing a 4-story on 18th and Q. And he's had great success with his other one. In fact, his rents are over $2,000 a month. So,
Yeah, it's almost, Taft's kind of tough. If you get in your car and you drive somewhere, you might drive to Bakersfield.
Yep.
But if, if you can walk out your front door and walk somewhere and not have to get in your
I
car,
agree.
you know, you'll probably do that.
Well, back to that parcel that's contaminated, Mark.
Okay,
That might be pretty suitable for a, like an M1/2 zoning. So you do some really light manufacturing. You know, cabinet shop, refinish place, you wouldn't necessarily zone in auto body. But, you know, somebody that wants, I remember RevPAC was looking to put a facility on Kern Street a few years ago. You know, motorcycle accessories company. Revly? Robin Rev? I think that's what it was, Robin and her husband.
Any other?
Our overall idea, though, is to enhance the residential aspect of it. And I think Bob's, or John's got a good idea with respect to that, that, you know, condos,
So
a
I think,
lot of folks prefer that.
I think since you're a deciding body and we're in our agendized session, you can speak freely on this. To get to some of this, not real specifics, but the comments all of you are making, some of the council members have made, comments at the workshop, condos have come up, you know, some other multifamily type use, whether it's apartments or units above commercial. Even in the more traditional residential portions of downtown, are the five of you comfortable with, and we'll start from the bottom, work our way up, single family, but making sure there's room for maybe that accessory dwelling unit, you know, the granny unit, where we can push more units onto properties, either through single family plus the extra
It
unit.
really isn't a duplex, it's a SFR with an ADU.
But you still get two units out of a
Additional dwelling
slightly
unit.
smaller.
Yeah.
Are we comfortable with some new form of duplexes, triplex 4?
I if I were to go in there and buy a 50-foot lot, I got a fourplex I can build on it,
Right.
but that's all zoned R1.
This is not, it's R2. The fourplex would still be held up because I believe at its density, so not to go too much into the details, the edges are R2, the middle does have the higher density. So would you like to see the opportunity for some of these properties to have that 4 or 5-plex unit on a 50-foot
Yeah,
lot?
a good development, if it's well done, they're really not a problem. I know that the city of Lompoc has a number of them mixed in with their single-family homes. And it doesn't seem to hinder, you know, the interaction of those folks.
I think if you go back to an older style of development, like down in the 20s over in Bakersfield, where you've got everything from pretty large, almost mansion level,
Right.
to 6-unit, 2-story apartments. They still have a lot of space
They're all
around.
over Palm and Oleander
Yeah.
area there.
And they have they have enough space around them that they're not feeling like you've crowded everybody in. There's some grass and you know, still, but it also isn't only, you know, if you're coming in on Stockdale where the new apartments are, they're okay apartments. I'm never really happy with the generic look of apartments, but there's a whole bunch packed in there. Whereas I like the idea of, you know, it doesn't matter if a single family is relatively close to a well-done,
That's kind of a small town feel.
Yeah.
It's maintained that way.
So one thing with a small town is height. So the whole fourplex, or maybe even, there was the discussion of some of those 6 bungalow type
like some we
developments
already
we have
have
on
in
the
town.
north side of Kern. There's probably 3 or 4 of those kind of spread out. I think most people on the call in the workshop were okay with seeing maybe more of those. You know, not a whole,
There's a few on Warren, I think. Yeah, and, you know, the one that had the fire I can think of in the 300 block
Yeah.
of Warren. That guy fixed it up and it's decent looking now, and it seems to be much more attractive than it was pre-fire.
Yeah, and there's actually small apartment complex right next to the hotel on,
Yeah.
on Sixth.
Right,
Holland End.
Holland Inn, yeah.
Yeah, right next to it is a small, they're one bedrooms, but they're, I think, have been well maintained, and they look like they might have actually been built originally by the same people who built the hotel. They've got some of the same
I
design.
think,
I think if they're managed well too, because if you get like a fourplex, but then someone moves in there and they got 3 roommates, and you got 4 cars,
That's
or,
always the issue.
you know, and then the parking all of a sudden.
right.
So if someone manages them right.
One of the things we're trying to do as a community overall is provide for the TIL students a place to live in the community and to more fully integrate. And young people that are going to the school, there's no real housing for them.
So-
And as you said, if it were in the downtown area, they would be using the restaurants and, you know, a little more community atmosphere in that area.
They're gonna be active on their bikes, walk in.
And I guess when you're talking about zoning, you're really talking about
We'll get Jerry to start a pet.
form-based?
We're gonna have a bicycle and pedal them up and down the street.
Huh?
We're getting you a business, man.
Well, years ago, I saw plans for a high-rise dorm complex where the Ash Street dorms are now. That would house TIL students, rather than building out, build up.
That was gonna be the follow-up question. So a fourplex probably won't ever get above 2-story.
Correct.
How are the 5 of you feeling about getting to 3-story with someone who would wanna really push the allowable density that's allowed here? That also provides, still having somewhat of a yard for whatever condos or apartments
How
would
tall
go
is the
there.
old Pioneer Mercantile?
I think as long as we've got adequate parking,
He's a single
and room.
use upstairs, 7,000.
it ain't like we're good, you build one, it's gonna block someone's
That-
view now.
that
There's-
height is
John, is that what
building.
you alluded to earlier when you
30,
mentioned
34 feet.
condos,
Yeah, I wouldn't
3-story,
be-
4-story?
Yeah, I mean, I could see multi-level, you know, and I'm thinking like a medium price, you know, not high scale, not low scale, but something nice.
Yeah.
You know, cause we have plenty of people here that make good money, but you can't get nothing here to rent, and they have to go to Bakersfield.
Right.
And if you need parking.
And, but if you give them something nice to rent here, they're gonna stay here and spend more of their money here.
This might be an
The
opportunity to
problem
look
with
at.
the 3-story is the
form-based
walk-up
code.
aspect to it.
Yeah.
And you put an elevator in, that's expensive, you know, you're into
Yeah.
an elevator, $45,000-$55,000.
Yeah.
But are we able to not have an elevator at 3 stories, Mark? I mean,
Yes.
you know, in
It's
New York, you
the-
have 5th floor walk-up, so
Yeah,
they don't have to belong to a gym, you get it going up to the house.
I believe there might be some other trigger at 3 stories. It might be probably number of units, or if there is insufficient stairwell, you know, access to and from a unit.
Sure.
But 3, I believe, is the cap, and then you start doing the 3 over pedestal, you know, which is 4. That's where the elevator definitely comes in.
Tuck under
And
parking.
so
kind of
elevator
thing.
wasn't necessarily required for Best Western, but they're not gonna rent their rooms out.
Yeah.
Cause people aren't gonna lug luggage up there.
No.
It's more convenience, but the code,
How tall is the Best Western?
it's 3.
How many
And the
feet
height
wise?
is, I think it's just short of 50. I think it's around 47.
I would be okay with heights at least similar to that.
And
for
that's a
some
good
stuff.
reference. So if that height in other,
I wouldn't want to see that next to a SFR that's a single story, because then you're in the shadow.
No,
Yeah.
but
We got a little bit of that with the fellow that lives next to the O'Reilly.
right,
You know, we don't want to create that situation, but 2 stories, and then if you're in a 2-story, having a 3-story next to it,
in the big-
we'd have to, you know, I think we would expect that to be conditional use, or come to us for a review. But yeah, I think we should be careful to not put somebody in a shadow all day, you know?
it's one of the
I think
reasons,
each spot could be evaluated and worked with.
and I don't know if you can do it as, in such a small area, but there was a good article in one of the city magazines about form-based codes. Basically, what you're talking about is supplying the right kind of housing and not worrying about if it's fitting a specific,
Demographic or?
well, no, floor plan, or, you know, a lot of the stuff, what happens is our codes get so tight that all you can build is three maybe kinds of deals, and they all have to be single family, or, you know, I like the idea of being able to mix in multifamily with the single family. You know, maybe you've got, you know, I'm the one that mentioned the, facing the rails to trails. There's some,
I had never thought of that, and I think that's a good idea, Jerry.
there's some.
Residential facing that trail would be nice. It'd
Yeah.
also be cool if you had like a little coffee place, you could stop and go for a walk there and stop and get a my
Yeah, you
wife
gonna
would
ride
be
your
all
bike
over that, I know
Down
it.
that
And
trail and.
I think that would attract a definite, you know, sort of that middle number you're talking about. I tried to mention, it's Ladera Ranch, Snapdragon's the street I was thinking about. They've done away with the garage in the front.
Mm-hmm.
And so that would be, it's usually a little two-story,
Yeah,
and they have an actual porch. The garage is in the back, and that might be, you know, problematic in some, but to me, it seems like if there's some way to,
well, the downtown area substantially has alleys.
yes. So if you
So
can.
let's capitalize on it having an alley.
And so if you can do that where there's an opportunity to face that stuff onto the rails to trails, and especially porches, things that invite people to maybe sit outside, to watch somebody playing in the park, all those things, I think. those are-
Years ago, a developer in Charleston, South Carolina, put in very small units. I'm talking 300, 400 square foot units that have 3-foot side yards. So unit to unit got 6 feet, kind of open, front porch on them. And what it was geared to was single people, and primarily single seniors were attracted to it because they can be with their friends, and it's a closed community. And we have the Heritage Park, but we don't have an alternative beyond that.
Right,
I think it's operating at capacity.
yes. And that's a great
Yeah.
topic you brought up about, there's the thing right now about tiny homes, the ones that either have the trailer hitch on it, or it is that accessory dwelling unit, the granny flat, whatever you wanna call it. We'll get into the details of that in that second workshop we're having in October. They'll really get there to gauge the comfortability of the commission, council members, attendees of, you want it more as that bungalow style, or are you okay with that as a additional unit on a single family property, even, you know, all the neighborhood that's out here on the other side of 10th, you know, if there's room, are you okay with them having some form of tiny unit?
And that's
extra
something,
unit
we-
kind of thing?
Absolutely.
And they're gonna work with the scales of that
And-
with you and the other attendees.
Right.
So
I
we'll
am.
hold on the details on that.
that's something to remember, that we're also actually doing more than just the downtown
The
specific
zoning
plan.
ordinance amendment portion that's in the title, and when we really get into the project.
What you're saying is that zoning allowance in the downtown area would then be also applicable to the area outside.
And I think that's a great idea.
Here, it's definitely gonna be on that higher density scale, that's why we're talking about the heights, 3-story, all that, more apartment, condo, all that. We obviously don't wanna intermix that too much out here in this established single family, but we'll get into the details in the next workshop of, how big of an accessory dwelling unit do you like, having all this, alley access here and the single family that's up here, you know, the access off the alley, whoever you're renting to could have a parking pad, which wouldn't be required, but a lot of people already have it for themselves and all that. We'll get into that detail. One thing I wanted to point out is I'd like for all 5 of you and everybody else you could share this map with, you could just be perusing this and look at everybody else's comment, and there's a like, dislike function.
Oh,
So,
Cool.
kinda like social media.
Just give a
You
thumbs
get-
up.
So you can do that. So let's go ahead and do this, because you've been talking about, you know, whatever we develop along the trail, if there's a way to take advantage of the trail there's an interaction between that, whether it's a hotel, somebody wants to go for a walk or a jog while they're staying there. If we get more residential, same for them. Even for commercial, if there's an outdoor eating area for a restaurant that could utilize some of the grass space. I'm guessing everybody's a thumbs up for, they're calling it front porch development, but stuff facing the trail or thumbs up?
Well, yeah, one of the things I'm curious about is what is the depth from rails to trails to, that Supply Road to the south?
Yes.
What is the depth of that lot?
The block is 400 feet, so it's 150, 100, 150. So 150 feet wide on the north side, 100 feet wide for the trail, and 150 on the south.
Could we allow any encroachment into the trails?
We can, and I believe technically the retaining wall on the backside of Best Western, to make sure there's a plenty wide path, not just a minimum like 3-foot path, is on that backside. So if anybody stayed there, there's an exit door from the
Right,
buffet room.
fire and
that.
safety.
And you could do a lap around the building because of that retaining wall, so we allowed them to retain some of the trail area. So some flexible space into that trail is available for developers. So again, you could do it this way where you just click on each of these. The other option is if you look on the left here, if you hit return, it'll take you back to the website we've created. But if you go down here to activity, it pops out all the comments we've just added, plus the ones from 2 weeks ago at the workshop. So instead of clicking on everything, you can just scroll through these,
Scroll it.
and you have your like, dislike.
Right, the pinks are the like, dislike, the greens are.
Oh,
The pink is the legend
colors
up
match
above.
something I like, opportunities,
Yeah,
constraints, need
okay.
attention, but based on the comment, some voting up, voting
Yeah.
down kind of thing, would really be great feedback for our consultants. So,
So if we can get as many people as possible to jump out there
So
and look at
Yes.
it.
we have a responsibility to kind of make folks aware of what is available.
yes, and they
Right.
can continue to add as many comments as they want. We only probably have about a week or so until, I have a feeling this will probably be just somewhat wiped clean, because we'll probably have an updated map with more detail when we get to workshop 2. So if people could get on this in the next week or so to add comments, like, dislike, provide variations on what people have been commenting on, we welcome all the feedback we could get on this, and this goes straight to the consultant team. So I think we've had fun with this map.
Well, I really appreciate your effort in this,
Yeah.
because I know you've been dogging this thing for a couple of years.
Right.
And the folks that you have been able to assemble to help us, that seemed to be a terrific group of folks.
Yeah, they're doing really
Knowledgeable
good.
and,
Oh, I love Rick. They're
Yeah.
a great engineering firm.
yeah, they were very helpful.
Is there a component to this project that includes a color paint ordinance and sign ordinances?
That's a perfect comment for that, is probably something in the realm of, either allowing some flexibility in signage or constraining signage, architecture, colors. That has been a regular comment from the planning commission over the years and our economic development committee. So it's definitely something to add onto this map is, whatever direction you're looking for is, let's sit down and figure out a color palette for downtown, or maybe some restrictions. Whichever we could figure out is the easiest to implement is creating this box of tools for colors and architecture, or is it gonna be more excluding colors and styles? Usually it's more inclusive, but definitely add that as a comment onto the map.
It's especially important for center.
I have another question. That's a large parcel of land.
Yes.
It's, that piece we're talking about on the south side of Rails to Trails by the 6th Street to 10th.
That's pushing 4 acres.
Yeah, so, I mean, we're talking, is the city inclined to allow somebody to go in and parcel that thing into
We-
smaller parcels, or would the city work with someone to develop small parcels to sell off?
That's what we've done with the 2 projects thus far on Supply Row, even though they're a little bit bigger, over an acre each. The Dollar General and the Grocery Outlet project, it wasn't just about the property, it was the development. Granted, there is, 2 smaller pads left over where you have the corner of Supply Row and 10th. And then there is an additional pad, that can have an up to 4,000 square foot
Up on
building
front.
along Front Street next to, grocery outlet.
Right.
So they planned that out with us. There was a development plan, if you will, concept. And then when they brought the details with grocery outlet and Dollar General, we moved forward with that. And we were okay with the remnants left, because you do need those attractors, grocery, general goods. And we're hoping that will bring also the other side of Supply Road, the property you're talking about. So if somebody wants to come in with smaller, less than acre pieces for like a small pad, whatever it may be, we'll definitely work with them. And if you hear anything, feel free to share my contact info and we'll sit down with them. But that's generally how each of the projects have worked themselves out. Even the O'Reillys, that's not really our property. It was private property that sold up on Kern Street.
Right.
But it happened to be the same developer as our Dollar General and grocery outlet. So got to work with the same people. We knew how they operated, they knew how we operated, followed the codes and guidelines that we have in place and went through the process.
How long a process is that, like a property split?
Well, the one thing with being smaller like that, it's the initial process to get to you with any site plan review, conditional use permit type deal, shouldn't be any longer than 6 months. It's generally been shorter. The only time it's been longer, well, I guess you could say 2 applications for the grocery outlet because there was an initial environmental challenge. But overall, from the first time they submitted till when we reapproved them in March, April, whatever that was pushing about the 6-month mark. And then permitting, we're actually pretty quick. We have a solid third-party plan checker. And then our permit fees and everything else are overall lower than other cities, mostly because we don't have what's called a development impact fee that gets tacked on, which is kind of like a measure that a school wants to put on to collect money to develop. We don't have those extras. We take what we get from property tax, sales tax, and so forth. So all that, we work with the people on it, and the process, less than 6 months for each step, or the entitlement to get to planning commission and then building permit is less than 6 months. Usually it's quicker than that if they have a solid architect or engineer on board. So less than 12 months overall, if they're on it beginning to end. And that's how everything's been from, well, there was a delay for Jack in the Box. It was almost a year between when they got approval here to when they got their building
They
permit.
came close to.
But everybody else, Dollar General, O'Reilly, grocery outlet, there wasn't much of a pause between planning commission approval and permit application. So they're all under 12 months for that process. So
Jack in the Box was kind of a corporate
yes,
thing.
still great to work with. All these guys have been good to work with and getting through the process. There's always little things here and there, but that's just what we all go through.
Sounds good. I did a project at the coast. It took about 5 years.
Coast is another beast, and that's for another day.
I fast-tracked one in LA, and it was to be done in 2 years, and it never got approved by the city, and it was conforming, no variance.
So that'll conclude this part of the presentation. Again, just reference everybody to check out this website. All the links are on the city website. They can reference the staff report that I put all the active links on it. And if they use Chrome or other browsers, they should be able to just click on it and get to the page. And we welcome everybody's comments. This is a flowing process. Sign up for those email updates if you want to get notified when we get that date nailed down for workshop number 2, but we're aiming for that final week in October. And it should be in person. We're hoping to be at the transit center. We can open the door. Plenty of airflow with the COVID concerns. We'll probably have masks if we get close, if we have a good turnout. If we get spread out, we will, but we're definitely looking to do it in person for this next workshop.
Great. Well, the consultants They're not necessarily in California though, are they?
They are.
They are,
They're
okay.
all
San
here. They have
Diego.
So
about
would
4
would they be in
offices and stuff.
attendance for that one?
Yes,
Oh,
they are
great.
definitely looking to
Nice,
be here.
I would like to meet them.
Yeah.
The firm is out of San Diego. One of the guys is just over
Coast.
on the coast. I know him real well.
Okay.
And the good thing about Zoom is we could do a hybrid if for some reason one of their team members has to stay put,
Yes,
whatever that reason may be, and they could provide their input. We'll have it projected up on the wall, and you can see their face, and they can see you.
great.
So we'll make sure it works for everybody. We're 95% in person. Similar to that workshop we had years ago, we're probably gonna be drawing and writing ideas on paper and doing more of this digital stuff, but hands-on. So,
Okay.
looking forward to it.
Great, thank you. That concludes 4, which leads to 5. Now your report.
I don't
Mr.
think I need to
Staples.
go over it. I had noted downtown specific plan stuff. We went over all the websites, so just
Yep,
please promote that out to the folks of Taft. El Dorado is quickly approaching. I know you all know that, so keep an eye out for the schedule of events. Their Facebook page and website is getting updated regularly with events. We're working with them to make sure everything goes smoothly. And then as you can see, the last of our major projects that we were just talking about, Jack in the Box is getting closer and closer to opening. Not foreseeing any delays, but we'll see. Hopefully everything is lined up to get the last of the paving and equipment into the building and furniture, but I have not heard any word of any delays. That was a question at Sit and Sip this morning, so, but I haven't heard anything that could necessarily slow it down, so. I have no date either for you.
no, but,
But as you can see, the finishes on the exterior means they're getting pretty darn close. so,
yeah,
Yeah.
Let's support them when they're open and get ready for El Dorado.
well, they need to be open, not closed at 7 like McDonald's. I've heard numerous complaints about, you have a sports activity at the high school and there's no place you can go.
Yeah.
A convenience store for a drink.
Well, they're known as a later night facility, so. we'll
It's
see
not their fault,
how
they can't,
adjust.
they can't get staff, so.
That too. So that's the other part, those looking for a job, keep an eye out for whatever boards they put up there, and let's make it happen. And I'll leave my comments to that.
All right, thank you. Mr. Epperson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll say,
All right, well, we appreciate that. Thank you, Jason. Commissioner comments? We should go in some systematic fashion. Bob?
I have none.
Okay.
I have
Kathy?
none.
None? John?
No comments to this stuff?
I'm really impressed with the hard work that they've put in on this. You've worked really well with them, and I'm looking forward to the product.
I would ditto that. My comment is, please vote and stop the nightmare we're living. It's imperative that, I think we should prayerfully consider what we're doing and vote your conscience. That's important to all of us. With that, that's my comment, and we need to identify Jerry as our representative to, or,
I volunteer unless somebody else
that's
wants it.
right, Kathy said that she would fill in for us too. Would you like to go to the council next
I would
occasion?
rather not at this point. Let me get my feet wet a little bit more.
Okay, that's reasonable.
Mr. Chairman, I identified Jerry then.
Okay, I would concur.
Thanks, Bob.
Is that a unanimous vote?
Yes, sir.
I think as chair, I should be able to designate the next person to do the invocation
There you go.
at the time of our next meeting. Okay, so now, that's a joke. I wouldn't do that to any of you.
Motion to adjourn then?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved in second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It carries on a 5-0. Thank you.